Hello there everyone and welcome back. It's time to carry on with my ranked session, and for once, or at least it seems like it's been a while, we're going to face off against Space Marines again. And although this is going to be a double battle barge type of fleet and not quite the 6 strike cruiser fleet yet, I don't know why I haven't quite encountered that fleet just yet. I have actually encountered the 6 cruiser Tau protector fleet, but that was a bit of a quick one-side bout and wasn't really worth demonstrating, since it just was simply a matter of my opponent being too aggressive with the bombers and seeker missiles, and I just concealed myself to kind of outlast them essentially. But I have encountered them, not so much the merchant fleet or like I said the 6 strike cruiser fleet, so I am intrigued about the possibility of facing off against that, since they do after all have the disruption overcharge, and their rate of fire with the lances is enough to at least keep my hollow fields from recharging, provided I don't get an incredibly lucky streak, since after all the hollow field is a percent-based chance to just absorb the lances. So I'm intrigued on that, since it is possible that I can recharge my lances against Adeptus Mechanicus for that reason. Their lances are more 12 seconds versus the 8 of Space Marines, but in this case, like I already said, it's 2 battle barges. These are the bombardment cannons and boarding torpedo variant, the Mark 1. So we're not going to be faced off against the heavy lances, kind of like I was talking about before, as it could have been insinuated. And I am ultimately planning to do maybe 2 more weeks of the Asuryani. I'm trying to remember to at least pronounce it properly, or at least how the in-game characters pronounce it at least. But it is 2 battle barges, 3 hunters I think are accompanying it, and not a strike cruiser. So we're going to be dealing with a bunch of frigates that are going to be scanner pulsing me, which actually will be a bit of an annoyance since I'm going to be trying to rely on the central gas cloud quite a bit. Since it's going to be apparent if as my opponent pushes forward we're going to be fighting for the center of the map area. And that gas cloud is going to be pretty important. And they did have Emperor's Tarot, so I'm watching for these seeker missiles as we notice them. I'm trying to see what angle the hunters are at, but that at least gives away that there are, 3 frigates. I don't know if... actually, it could be 4 frigates. I'm trying to distinguish if one of those is by chance maybe the battle barge to launch them too. But it seems like it's more frigates if I were to be honest. Either way, the light cruiser is going to try and shoot down a couple of them, which is why I turned around there. And we have a handful... okay. It looks like it is 3 hunters, and maybe the battle barge actually did launch a couple of torpedoes there. And a little bit of panic trying to dodge these missiles at the same time, and with the window presented, despite the mismanagement of the pulsars, trying to get a free kill or at least some permanent damage on those things. It wasn't meant to be, alas. So they're going to disengage relatively quickly. I can at least deal with the Thunderhawks pretty damn well when they're isolated. I just need the point defense to kind of shoot them down. And I think, no, the boarding torpedoes actually evade the flagship, which actually would have been conveniently helpful. But I am launching torpedoes here. I got a prime opportunity for it with how aggressive my opponent's being, but this strike cruiser already is having a ridiculous amount of boarding damage on it. And with the engine permanently gone at that, I think I already tried to repair it, so I don't think there was even an option to call arms. Since with 2 battle barges and not strike cruisers, I could actually in theory get away with that in this current predicament. But the crew is going to die, its engine's permanently gone, deck's permanently gone, and as a reminder I do have the Shrine of Agion for this, to kind of give me that little bit extra bravery trait. And it's going to pay off nicely here because my opponent is also using the Kulexis Assassin, which we may have seen a little bit on my crippled cruiser. Hard to say due to the visual effect, of course, of the Honor the Chapter that they did as well. Makes it tricky to separate the two. But despite how amazing this has been starting for me, this battle barge is going to live just barely. It's going to get into the gas cloud, it's going to repair the fire results at the last possible second. So I disengaged thinking that it is going to die with how close it is and 2 fire results, but like I said, it's going to get the repairs. You're going to hear it momentarily at some point, at least before the killing blow is dealt. And since the generator was not destroyed, yeah, there's audio cue right there in fact, it is going to have its shields coming back up. And this is a really awkward predicament. I tried focusing on the generators this entire time and I did not get it. And now I have to kind of brute force my way to gain this kill. And this battle barge, the second battle barge, is kind of trying to run interception, and with how terrifying it is, it's justified. I am just thankful that my opponent used the supercharged void shield to kind of recharge the shield, as opposed to hang on to it for that kind of occasion. Which, even then, it may not have been enough, since it is still a 50-second recharge without using the skill. But at the end of the day, supercharged void shield is the damn effective ability for at least a battleship. As my opponent is getting desperate now, trying to get what damage they can in, but sadly with these frigates only having 200 health, it's not going to amount to too much, even with the 83 armor. But it's just a shame that the Spear Crystal lenses kind of works as it does, because I can sort of, like I said plenty of times already, kind of counteract that effect. So they are kind of forced, if I can keep constant pressure on the one ship I want killed, they are forced to use that at the very beginning of a battle, and from there on out, it's very likely they're not going to get any more use out of it, assuming all goes well for me. And right now, I have the objectives, I got a good point lead, I'm just trying to keep myself concealed and deal with this boring damage. Because in all honesty, I feel a lot more crippled than I actually am, with this one cruiser kind of a bit of a liability. Its engine's gone, its generator is permanently gone as well, even its deck is permanently gone. So it's not really doing me much favors, and we kind of seen how awkward it can be face off against battleships sometimes when I am starting to lose my ship count, and hell, my opponent does concede, but we're actually going to get a lot of matches in this video, and I think for the next one, we're going to have a good handful of battleship type of matches, oddly enough. So you're going to get to see what I'm talking about firsthand, if I didn't already give you plenty of examples already. But I'm pretty certain that's a disruption overcharge there. I honestly never checked. I was thinking they were extended ranges, but it could have been disruption overcharge, which would of course synergize really well with the Culexus Assassin. Okay, match number 2, we're face off against Eustace, and I'm trying to honestly remember where I fought him before. I think he was actually the opponent I lost to when he was playing as Adeptus Mechanicus. I think it was the 3 battleship, the 3 Ark Mechanicus fleet that I actually lost against it way back when. But honestly, for the life of me, cannot be honest. But I know I faced off against this opponent before, and what they're going to be utilizing in this match is going to be the 6 slaughter fleet. There's only going to be, maybe a single frigate? I honestly can't remember, since it is kind of not really contributing a whole lot with what the premise of this battle is going to entail. My opponent's going to get in my face, get aggressive, and it's going to be up to me to manage and avoid a lot of the ramming damage and weather the storm. And of course a little bit of luck to avoid random critical hits on my generators too, it goes without saying. Since that is still a very real possibility that I could get screwed over on that front. But my opponent still is lower admiral level, since they're just experimenting, I would assume, since I played against Yuhaz plenty of times before, so they're not going to have the most powerful type of abilities. I just wonder which is most prevalent. Probably Slanesh, with the ability to pause and stop my ships for 5 seconds. Never mind, it does cancel my hollow field for that period as well. Which, I do not think much of it, since it is after all 5-second pause, but I shouldn't underestimate for the damage potential it could do in that period. Never mind the amount of time it would take to recharge said hollow field as well. I could suffer really big attrition there, depending on what the cooldown is on that ability, since I don't think I actually play with it myself to really know, to be fair. But we do have beacons for gas clouds. It's, like I said, lower admiral level, so I don't even remember what they have access to, but it is going to be a close range slugfest. With that said, only thing they could probably are missing out on would be the armor piercing ammo, if I were to be honest, for admiral level 8. Maybe Admiral level 6, I honestly can't remember. There's a lot I don't remember. It's been a while since I played Chaos, so clearly, when I'm done with the Asuryani, I should look back into playing with them some, and trying to see what works with all the tweaks and changes, and of course the new additions that they had with the expansion. There's a frigate there. It's oblivious to where the light cruiser is, so I may have missed out on an opportunity to snipe it, since I kind of was running away rather than ramming it, as weird as it may seem. But I try firing torpedoes there, since it seemed like a good opportunity with the aggressive movement and how much combustion gauge you has was actually burning as well. But right off the bat, this is an awkward start, losing my engines in force and repair. But they are getting shots in. I don't know really what else there is to commentate. It is mostly just witnessing the spectacle, because there isn't really much strategy outside of prioritizing my targets and trying to go after what's weakest, ideally. And right now I got an amazing arc to at least isolate this one cruiser in front. But since the other cruiser kind of stopped there, I'm not going to have the convenience to go after it after, or yeah, target it. What am I trying to say? The second cruiser I can't focus down because of the awkward placement of my bottom squad. But at least this one is isolated and it can die really damn soon. I'm just burning all my cooldowns to last, but I think the Maelstrom's still doing damage with the one that is paused, or at least stopped for a good period of time. It just feels really awkward for me, I'm going to be honest, since this is the fastest of the kind of brute force type of fleets in the game. You can't get a faster cruiser, especially when you consider how all head full functions for them. So they can run me down incredibly well. They're just going to be constrained and restricted by their combustion gauge, since it doesn't recharge to full unless they burn out completely after all. And that amount of time to recharge is quite significant and allows me to reposition really damn well too. But the first cruiser's gone, there's 5 left, and the damage potential is still really damn good, but at what price? My one cruiser here, while it's getting amazing torpedoes, I would easily turn this in my favor. It's heavily crippled. I think yeah, this engine's temporarily gone for that one that's right in the plasma bomb, and I won't be able to repair that for a bit. And then otherwise, yeah, even the Phoenix is taking notable damage, but thanks to its extra resilience, it's not in trouble just yet. Yeah, it's difficult to commentate for this match, so I'm just thinking I might just keep it on the down low, because it's pretty self-explanatory as it now. The engine critical hit allows me to cripple and hopefully finish this thing off. And with the stasis bomb, it'll make it easy to at least capitalize and get the follow-up attack in. We're just getting point blank range with these ships, and I should lose that bout, so long as I don't use my Wraithbone ships poorly there, basically. Since it does take a long time for the cruisers to actually turn around. Try as they might, even with high energy turn. And even then, high energy turn is probably what I want them to do in all honesty, since it burns the combustion gauge that much faster for probably a lot little gain, or a lot less gain, compared to the all head full. Since they're not doing nearly as much ramming damage, and I did kind of forget about my light cruiser a little bit too, I'll be honest. I don't think it was even grabbing the point. I just had disengaged, try and provide support, and I left it to auto attack the first cruiser, basically, I think. But I believe I'm down to maybe one cruiser has 2 charges left, but I think I'm down to only 1 cruiser that's capable of firing torpedoes, excluding the light cruiser itself, which I think is about to burn it up top. Yep, it burned its torpedoes, but it's gonna miss. So now I only have I only have one Wraith ship, or at least the cruiser rather, that has torpedoes on it, but now it's starting to get into my favor a little bit. But my health is incredibly low, and my morale, thankfully, is still hanging tight there. But with this about to die, the flagship still intact, thankfully this is a victory. It, I won't lie, was a very awkward one for me, since I'm not quite used to something that, in some sense, is more mobile than me. At least to a limited extent. They don't have the turning potential, but they definitely have the better speed with their all head full. So they can run me down effectively well, especially if they make use of the gas cloud, kind of like what we've been seeing here to a limited extent. It makes it tricky to prioritize the one cruiser I've been hitting all the time, or at least crippling. And all that's left at this point is the frigate we saw earlier. So this is a victory. A match I thoroughly enjoyed, but yeah, my ships are still relatively in good shape, but it goes without saying. If I lost that Phoenix at any point halfway through that fight, or even a second cruiser that was like a third of its health, that makes it a lot more difficult for me to take the shields down. And I don't need to tell you how much I rely a little bit on the lascans constantly hammering, or at least having the potential to constantly hit at the target I want, or at least the cruiser, to keep its shields from recharging. That's a very big factor as well, and it does make me wonder if I truly deserve the progress I'm doing so far on with the Asuryani, since it seems like I'm exploiting that fact a tiny bit with the spear crystal lenses. But otherwise, the match itself was fun, it was tense, I definitely enjoyed it. We just gotta clean up the mess, as it were. And thankfully, my light cruiser is up to spotting them long enough for at least force a mutiny and killing off this one light cruiser, or frigate rather. And then they're gonna promptly concede just after that. It was another victory. It's one I don't get to encounter very often with the slaughters, and like I said, how could that have changed, at least with the armor-piercing ammo, since there isn't very many other upgrades that are helpful outside maybe a stasis bomb to kind of serve as like a bit of a wall to force me into a certain direction, or at least force me to do a complete disengage as opposed to like harassing with my Phoenix, trying to circle around them. Alright, match number 3, we're getting Chaos again, and apparently someone is really upset that I've been praising a certain Chaos Lord as the greatest of all the Chaos, of the greatest servant of the ruinous powers, I suppose is the proper term. So, Horus is here to play. I just don't know why he's with Khorne, let alone a Demon Prince. I thought he was dead. Either way, this is going to be a tense match. This is where we're going to be facing off against exclusively a battleship type of fleet. If I'm remembering correctly, it's 2 Desolators and 2 Despoilers, so a bit of an odd mix of a fleet, especially when you consider how difficult it can be to hit with the torpedoes. But the durability is there. It's going to be ridiculous trying to take these ships out, and especially when my opponent is kind of trying to make it difficult for me to hit said ships too, because they're going to be screening, they're going to be shielding each other. We're in for a drawn out type of match. I promise you that. It just remains to be seen if it's going to be a close match or a brutal match. Since, interestingly enough, the 2 Despoilers we're going to get to see in action as well. The additional speed of the bombers, at least the 650 unit speed of the bombers that Chaos exclusively has in comparison to everyone else. And that's going to be a bit of a factor as well for how this plays out, since that is, at least currently, the one weapon that at least Chaos can negate my hollow field really damn well, especially if they have vision on me with one of their fighter squadrons too. Or maybe I could be misremembering, it could be 3 Despoilers. We'll know soon enough, but either way, they are 4 battleships, that I can promise you there. And I think you can even see the speed difference there to a vague extent too, since the Desolator does actually go faster than the Despoiler, if only a slight tiny bit. Oh, there is a cruiser. Damn it, I'm completely wrong. They're all Despoilers. Maybe I'm thinking of another Chaos match, because there is going to be a lot of battleship-centric type of battles either way. So now I look like a fraud a little bit, trying to hype this up with 4 battleships, and I left you wanting. So the least I could do is promise an entertaining match. As the fighters are getting recalled, so I'm turning my Phoenix and cruiser around for that reason alone. Since the gas cloud was kind of serving as a disengage, or at least to keep the fighters from revealing me needlessly. And what I'm hoping to accomplish here is, of course, snipe the frigate. Although sadly my light cruiser is not far enough forward to kind of catch my opponent off guard, so it's a little unfortunate there, but the celestial body and the debris is kind of a blessing and a curse, as not only did it stop the shots of my opponents for a brief period of time, it also stopped my pulsars, but to be fair, I wouldn't have gotten through the shields with the light cruiser anyway, so it's helping me more than hindering right now, as I make a dive attempt to at least grab this objective. And then other than that, I'm going to circle around and try and keep at arm's length, because so far, with the amount of battleships we have, I'm kind of thinking my opponent has only a single frigate, so I'm going to try and abuse that by circling around with the Phoenix, ideally away from where the frigate might be, since we did see it go behind the rest of the fleet. And then other than that, I'm a little bit worried I might not conceal these ships in the asteroid belt in time, so you're going to see me launch fighters preemptively. Kind of serve as that little bit of a deterrent, or at least buy me extra time. But of course my Wraithbone ship comes back up at the same time, so it doesn't work out the best. But thankfully, they just turn around and disengage before. Well, that's my opponent probably recalling them before I actually conceal my ship, so it still in the end served the same result. I'm just at the moment taking a lot of flack and not really doing much in return. But thankfully, with the lack of disruption overcharge, I am relatively safe, despite how intimidating this might look. Since right now, I think I only took like 30-40 damage, it doesn't look like a whole lot just yet. I'm just getting hit by the scanner pulses, and at least I know where it's at because the light cruiser was not revealed. Keep that in mind. The scanner pulse revealed the 2 cruisers, but not the light cruiser. So it's, like I said, it's with the rest of the fleet, and I try and play that, at least to my advantage some. Especially since it is on cooldown, so outside being revealed or being within the 9,000 range, I could kind of engage these somewhat freely, or at least get in range freely. That'll change in a moment once these fighters reveal me. And it's not a good predicament since I haven't really done a whole lot of shield damage. Although my opponent Raymond himself helps nicely to make up for that. And drop the Maelstrom, although sadly I don't think that hits both the battleships like I had been wanting. It's probably close, but I could have gotten a little more damage there. But the frigate kind of gave itself away, and it pays out nicely here. My opponent has no more scanner pulses. They're just going to rely exclusively on these fighters, which sadly are on top of my ships. And also Scream, which is going to be a bit of a problem. So I'm not going to be able to hide until these fighters are dealt with. And ideally I'm going to try and kill off this cruiser, although I'm messing up with my attack runs quite notably there, since I was hoping to get some really good damage on that cruiser, which I think may be a Stig. I think it's only 2 fighter bays. Yeah, it looks like it's only 2 fighter bays, so it could be a devastation with that honestly said. But right now, generator's gone on the Phoenix. This is an awkward predicament since the spoilers are actually really good in this prow position, since they do have super heavy lances on the prow. And that's going to compound heavily on the Phoenix until I can repair the generator some. Other than that, I'm trying to disengage. I'm trying to get these fighters off my Phoenix right now, and until I get another Wraithbone shift, they are going to keep vision of me, try as I might. But there's a nice opportunity to at least do more damage to the cruiser itself. Since the convenience of the light cruiser just staying within range at all times is kind of nice, although I may be getting a little bit too carried away with it. And there's still a full fighter squadron there left to deal with, and it's not the cruiser, the devastation. It is the dang desolators, so there's still a lot of hit points to get through there before my Phoenix is actually safe. Thankfully, the light cruisers and the cruisers themselves are serving as a little bit of distraction. And my fighters give me that space to conceal my ships to safety, but in all that time, my other cruiser just got bombed to death. You can see how close it is to death right now with its generator gone. And right now, I'm going to exploit the low mobility of these battleships by boosting right through them. It may be a terrible idea since I'm leaving myself vulnerable to heavy boarding, but at least these aren't Space Marines. The torpedoes are a bit questionable since the fighters are right there to stop them, but I think I get 2-3 hits in at least to kind of make up for it. And from here on out, I don't feel comfortable in my position right now, so I'm actually going to disengage fully and see about winning through the objective game right now, since if my opponent decides to chase after these 2 ships, then I'm getting free points on the objective and a window to even grab the final point in the middle there. So I'm in good position, even though, yeah, I just burned the engines there. I'm going to conceal that cruiser in a moment, and they have no frigates to kind of mark me. It's just a question if they're willing to commit launching fighters to keep vision or at least get on the cruiser, which in turn will make it a lot more difficult for them to do damage to these 2 ships up here. And actually, the Phoenix's generator is permanently gone, so this is another reason why I'm disengaging. Since any damage they do from here on out is going to stick, especially with the lances. But I am going to try and get whatever free damage I can, and this is a good opportunity to abuse the 13,000 range that I got from my Phoenix due to the extended range upgrade that I took. So I'm going to try and chip down the shields and then do a pulsar attack run when the shields ideally are taken out. Although Horus is going to go straight into the gas cloud before I get a window to do that, so that's what's going to happen there. Which is kind of good since it does split up the fleet, and so they're not doing nearly as much pressure on my limping cruiser right now. That again kind of has its engines gone. I think at this point its engine's permanently gone. Yes, it is. And barely a crew to kind of complement it. But it's still alive. It still has relatively good health though, so if nothing else, it's going to grab the center point for me. And at least trade off for this battleship. I'm just not getting the hull damage I would like. But thankfully, again, unless my opponent wants to launch fighters and minimize the amount of bombers they have, I can at least freely attack them since there's 2 squadrons down here, keep in mind. We see one of them swirling in the gas cloud. And that just leaves 1 squadron to try and get vision of the squad up here, but not really bomb them. At least for the time being. So I'm alright here. It's not a good position, but with the objectives, I'm still well in the lead. It's just how fragile my fleet is right now, with 1 engine, or 1 cruiser permanently losing their engine, and the flagship being basically vulnerable to every shot that they have to throw at me. So, I will lose a game of attrition probably if I can't get any damage on the hull, which there is a window for right now. The flagship lost its shields, and this is again abusing the spear crystal lenses to a vague extent. Since now the generator's actually gone with that said, so I was gonna comment how they're not gonna regenerate their shields from here on out. And since this thing is kind of gonna die, I do get some decent damage in at least with the torpedoes. Just not on the battleship I want because of, like I said, it's being screened for. And I'm thankful my opponent didn't get the ramming attempt in either, because that could have been really damn painful there, and this is about to lose its crew too. But it still has health and it still has a full hollow field to kind of protect it, so it's not quite out of the fight yet. I would just argue my opponent could have killed this thing a lot sooner. Even with the crew gone, it still can fight, if only just barely. And the other battleship that we kind of been ignoring is coming in hot. Or coming in hot rather. I have no more stasis bombs to kind of get away from it, but this is where I am honestly strongest. I may have whiffed those torpedoes quite notably, but as the ships are isolated, it means they can't protect and screen for each other either. Even with the lack of hull field I have on both these ships now, I am going to commit to fighting this dang thing. As the flagship dies, finally, the health of my ships is ridiculously low, but I believe I get this kill just before I get the victory on the score, or at least it's going to be really damn close. And with the low mobility, I'm abusing that to good extent too. Even with now, like I said, 3 ships lost their hull field. This is where I could fall apart easily if if my opponent is able to focus on a single ship down, but right now they're kind of all over the place. And what was a terrifying match, I was really worried about losing that when I was forced to disengage completely, but somehow we managed to turn around. And really, those bombers were doing a notable amount of damage with their additional speed too. It goes to show they are doing work if they can keep vision. Alright, it's time for another rematch against Terror, and this is going to be perhaps one of the more tense type of matchups I've had with Terror in a while, or at least so far rather, since Terror is going to be utilizing the triple Ark Mechanicus fleet yet again, so they're going to have the ridiculous bulk of health rather, that we kind of seen already when I faced off against Horus in the last match. And the main strategy, the main theme I'm going to be going for here is trying to, well, the majority of the time I'm actually going to be playing a objective-based game. I'm not really going to get much of a window to jump at the battleships very well, since they're gonna, with five frigates, I'm basically gonna get spot anytime I try and go in for an attack run, and then Terror is gonna have a bunch of free damage just as I'm flying in, never mind flying out. As you're actually gonna see here, I'm gonna suffer heavy damage kind of early on, and then it's gonna drag out as kind of a slow and steady type of match. And even as I was playing this battle, it was kind of reminiscent to when I did a previous stream before, trying to do an objective-based game exclusively against two Ark Mechanicus players. It may have even been Terror, I honestly can't remember, to be honest. And I kind of made a comment how it seems like I couldn't win an objective-based game way back when. And we're going to see if all that time that I put into Asuryani is going to pay off or not, being able to focus on a dang fleet for at least multiple weeks, or at least a good plethora of matches, since I think we're now around 40, maybe 50 matches, when you include like the handful I didn't get to post onto the YouTube channel, since they were either really one-sided, really short, or just anticlimactic. So this is basically what I was thinking as I was in the middle of this match. In all seriousness, this is kind of why I bring it up. As well, I already told you it was the triple Ark Mechanicus. I'm able to spot the frigates at least, and I'm going to be trying really hard to snipe those things down. Terror is consistently making it difficult for me to snipe them at least. At least Terror just constantly boosts away and avoids the fighters. So I want to argue, Terror has been learning from our previous encounters here. I like to argue since, normally, I remember exclusively the last time I played against Ark Mechanicus, I killed like 3 frigates in the first few moments of this engagement after all. And now I'm going to have trouble getting at them if my fighters can't give me the vision I need. Even if it was a lucky reveal of the fighters. Either way, I'm going to be grabbing the points, I'm going to swing around and... No, I'm not really comfortable engaging at this point because there's no cover, no gas clouds, or anything I can use to help counteract the just the scanner pulses of these frigates, but I do see them coming after me at least one at a time. And I am going to be making attempts to try and snipe them, although it is a bit of a giveaway to an extent too. So I am excited for the prospect that we're witnessing here. I'm actually pretty happy with it all said and done, considering this is going to be a lot more trickier just because you see the amount of damage already that's on my Phoenix. Keep in mind it has more health than my cruisers and it's already lost maybe a fifth of its health. And that was just from trying to fly away, for crying out loud. So it is notable damage. I don't know how much of that was due to Spear Crystal lenses though. Or not Spear Crystal, but Disruption Overcharge. But it goes without saying, I'm trying to snipe these frigates. Terror is controlling them individually though, so I can't just randomly shoot, spray and pray as it were, expecting to kill one of them. But I am getting some permanent damage. It does go without saying. I think I get just the hit I need. Yeah, the fire assaults are going to kill the first frigate, but if I'm remembering correctly, there is 5 of those frigates, so there's still 4 more to go. And I'm still taking, notable damage. Since right now I lost a quarter of my health on the Phoenix, and we haven't even done any damage to the Ark Mechanicus just yet. Since I never really feel comfortable trying to engage out in the middle of nowhere after all. Since I do rely on these gas clouds a lot to kind of counteract the loss of my hull fields with the Disruption Overcharge after all. So I felt like all this time that just flying right at Terror would be a death sentence, if I were to be perfectly honest. Whether it's justified or not remains to be seen. But even with that said, I'm taking a lot of damage there, but I do have 3 of the points and I'm threatening to grab the 4th one there with the light cruiser. So I still have a good score lead. I am trying not to overcommit on the boosting. I am honestly trying to look at the battleships to see what their hitting is. At least to give me some reassurance I'm not going to get obliterated by Nova cannons whenever I do a preemptive Wraithbone shift. Since that is something I'm good, even though Terror is kind of, either commit to, or at least admit that they're probably not going to hit me with the Nova Cannons or not. I couldn't tell you, but they haven't used the Nova Cannons in a while in the Adeptus Mechanicus matches I've had, it seems. And I'm kind of thankful for that, because there is possibly some windows where I could be overcommitting a tiny bit with the Falls Maneuver and Wraithbone Shift, even with only 3 Nova Cannons to actually threaten to damage me. But I do get a second frigate there. I see 2 more, but they're too far away to kind of effectively get damage in. I do try and use my fighters to help get a little more vision, but at the end of the day, only the Phoenix is in range at the moment. And I'm doing a hard disengage with the squad up top there, goes without saying, since, again, I have very little means to kind of conceal my ships, and making it difficult for them to avoid getting shot as a result. But we do have Disruption Bomb here, and I want these things to turn around. I tried to go after the frigate, and it wasn't meant to be, alas. And yeah, one of the ships is going to lose the Disruption Overcharge, or Hall of Field rather, since I did try and boost aggressively after the frigates after all. But Stasis Bomb holds them in place. It gives my light cruiser actually the time it needs to actually grab the 4th point up top. And then it's going to try and harass, it's going to try and bamboozle, and at least we see where the last 3 frigates are. And thankfully I'm just in range to pick off the 3rd. So slow and steady we're picking off their vision, and I feel like that's probably the most important thing I can do here. I may not be playing Drukhari, I may not be playing as Corsairs, but when I'm being constantly chipped down at 22,000 range, I kind of need some way to keep them from shooting at me after all. So it's still really damn important for the Asuryani. I want to argue at least. And even though the Nova Cannons are finally coming out, it's too little too late, since I do get the point and I'm threatening to grab this other one. And thankfully I do have a gas cloud to help some, but the Scanner Pulse nearby does counteract that. And this is a very tense match, don't let me get you wrong. I am worried about... It's like I said already, this is reminiscent to when I streamed my 2 matches. I think it was against Terra, and lost those 2, trying to play almost exclusively an objective-based game. And I felt like I lost in terrible fashion as a result of that. Mainly due to one half of my fleet being pincered into the corner and then getting destroyed as a result. But in this case, well, in this case my ships are really damn limping, but not really at risk of getting killed just yet. With what, 2 frigates and 1 about to get isolated, especially with this fighter conveniently spying for me. And you're even going to see something incredibly bold right here. I'm going to maelstrom the hell out of this frigate in a moment to try and force a panic boost so I can keep vision on them. And the gambit does pay off, for it kills us a 4th frigate. Arguably a huge waste of the maelstrom, but we see where the last frigate's at as a result, and killed the 4th one. And with Terra spraying out this fleet finally, the tables are about to turn. I'm going to do my torpedo run. Sadly the 2nd salvo is going to whiff, but this is kind of what I've been waiting for all this time. To not be heavily punished by flying into a death ball. Which is why I kind of like playing the objective game, especially with something that's mobile. Since then you can capitalize on this what's happening right now. And sure, the other 2 battleships are also providing a little bit of fire, but the macro cannons are heavily mitigated due to the extreme range too. Exceptional accuracy or not. And with the poor mobility that the battleships themselves presents, I have a good window to just kill this thing right now. It's going to take a little bit of time, but keep in mind, this is only 3 cruisers, or arguably half my fleet that's doing this. And they're still doing very well. Again, it could be Spear Crystal lenses kind of helping me in that regard too, with that said. If only slightly, since I don't have any las cannons to constantly keep hitting it and force that pause. But what's generator gone? The mutiny gone? This thing is dead. I just need 1 more salvo to finish it off. And even then, the score is heavily in my favor, especially with the 300 points I think I'll be getting as a result of killing this battleship too. So I'm on the verge of victory despite the fact that I've just been getting shot at for like 10 minutes almost. Well, technically looking at the clock, it's been more like 8 minutes almost. And Terror does concede, but if nothing else, it's a bit of a demonstration on how resilient these ships can be. Unless by chance Terror did not have Disruption Overcharge, because we did see a Disruption Bomb. But I'm really... Yeah, actually they didn't have Disruption Overcharge, oddly enough. Because it could in theory still work very well, but they did have the Disruption Bomb. But either way, that was fun. I am really excited for that match, and I'm hopeful to see more from Terror, because it seems like it's been an uphill climb, as opposed to at least the frigates being suicidal in the first handful of matches I have with them. At least that's what it feels like.